Okay, this video is called Day of the Lord. First we're going to look at 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 10. It says, "But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up." So, what exactly is this verse saying? The day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night. Well, you hear this a lot from those that believe in the pre-trib view. They say that, well, you don't know when Jesus is coming, and no one has ever known when Jesus is coming, and even whenever he left, even in the early church, he could have come at any moment. Well, is that really what it's saying here? Let's take a look at the context of the passage, which is the thing you should do every time someone shows a single verse and they give you this scenario like the one I just gave, that Jesus could just come at any moment. Well, maybe you should look at the context to see exactly what this thief in the night is referring to. You look at verses 3 through 9, and we see that the object of the passage are unbelievers, not the church. Scoffers walking in their own lusts, sinners, not saints. They mock, saying, "Where is he? Why is he taking so long?" Well, verse 5 says they are willingly ignorant, meaning they aren't really interested in an answer to the question. The motive is to doubt he will ever come. Then the flood is brought up to show the former destruction of the world by water, which was done because of sinners, with nothing in their heart but wickedness continually. That's what it basically says in Genesis, nothing but evil continually. Is actually possible for a serial killer to do something good sometimes. You see on TV a lot of times that the next door neighbors had no idea that this guy was a serial killer because he was so nice and always doing good things for them, and they could never picture this person doing the things that he actually did do. So whenever the Bible says someone has evil in the heart continually, that's really saying a lot, seeing how even a serial killer could sometimes not have evil in his heart and still do evil and wicked things. So to have evil in your heart continually, that's very, very depraved. But that's the reason why the world was destroyed the first time, was because of sinners. So it even talks about how the next time that the world is to be destroyed will be the final destruction by fire. So again, the destruction is because of lawless sinners. And then this takes us to verses 6 and 7. Then we come to verse 8. One day is with the Lord like 1,000 years. Also 1,000 years is like a day. Notice the word "as" that I substitute for the word "like." I did that because that is what it means. It is simile. Not an exact comparison, but there are similarities between the time span of one day and the time span of 1,000 years, according to the way God views time. This should be obvious if you think about it. God is eternal. God has no beginning and no end. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. So he always has existed. He always will exist. Nothing can ever change that. So in contrast, 1,000 years would seem like a very short time, like a day. He could even said 1,000,000,000,000 years is like a day to God. Because even 1,000,000,000,000 years would seem as short as a day to God in the view of eternity. Yet he didn't say that. He did specify 1,000 years. The two occurrences of 1,000 here in the verse in the Greek is chilioi, or kilioi. It depends on how you want to pronounce it. I prefer to say chilioi, but others would say, no, you're wrong, it's kilioi, or I'm no Greek scholar, but I just like to say chilioi, so just kind of bear with me there. It's a adjective in this case, plural, of uncertain affinity, 1,000 or thousands. So its plural form means that either an unspecified time, which could really mean trillion or whatever number you want to put in there. It could even mean 2 or 1. It's unspecified if it's unspecified. If it can mean any measurable number you would care to use, also the word means 1,000. Since it is plural, it would even mean unspecified number of thousands, which is really the same as the first definition. So if it's an unspecified number of thousands, then you might as well be talking about an infinity. Or just anything, 5,000, 10,000, whatever you want to put in there. Or it could just mean thousand. Or the plural form of thousand, which would be like, say, just 2,000. Just more than one. If it could just mean more than 1,000, then you have a definite 1,000 and more than that. So I believe that's what it means, is that it actually means more than 1,000 is what I would believe that it means in this verse. So there is a real reason why that word was used instead of the Greek word eon, which means a continued duration, age, course, eternal, etc., based on unspecified amount of time. Yet he didn't use that word. So if he wanted it to be an unspecified amount of time, whether it be 1 year, 5 years, or 1,000,000 years, he would have just used eon, which just means age, unspecified amount of time. That's what he would have used in this verse, but he instead used chilioi instead, which is the plural form of thousands. So that's why I believe that it means more than 1,000, which would be the plural form, but not an infinite number of thousands, just more than 1,000. So right here, when we see this, this is where the pre-trib view actually fails quite miserably. If the return of Jesus was more than 1,000, which I believe the verse is actually teaching here, then there's no way his return could ever have happened at any time. Meaning that they would have no reason to expect him to arrive during the early church. Because they would have looked at that and said, well, it's going to be at least 1,000 years or more since his return. So the pre-trib view actually fails there, because it actually does teach that any time from the time that he left, he could have returned. He could have returned the very next day, or very next week. So they really had no reason to look for Jesus to come back during their lifetime. But that's not the only thing. I mean, that would be kind of weak if that was the only thing in this passage that would point to that. So let's look at the whole thing. If Jesus could have, come back that very day or the very next day, then why would there ever be mockers saying, what's taking so long? What is long by a couple days or a year or a couple years? So for the mockers, the sinners, to be mocking the Christians, saying, well, what's taking him so long to come back? Well, there'd have to be a long period of time to pass before anyone could do such mocking. So that still goes with the more than 1,000 years idea. Because over 1,000 years, and that would be plenty of time to pass by that there could be mockers that would say things like that. And there are mockers that are saying things like that today. Whenever I'm preaching on campus or out in public, you'll quite often get someone to say, well, if Jesus is real, then what's he taking so long? Why isn't he coming back yet? Why has he been gone for so long? Because it's been, almost 2,000 years. So that's what they're doing now. So actually this verse is warning that this is what's going to happen in the last days, which we see happening now. So that's kind of a sign to look at. It's going to take more than 1,000 years for the Lord to return from that point. The plural form of the word thousand in the Greek is like one day to the Lord. So if the plural form of 1,000 is just like one day to the Lord, then obviously 1,000 years itself would be like a day unto the Lord. And there is a word for that. It's the word chilios, which you could say kilios. So don't kilios me over it. But chilios is the way I like to say it. And it's the noun feminine version. It just means 1,000. And where chilioi is a word that to describe the article, an adjective, chilios is a noun. It is the actual article, so it is 1,000 years. And they're really forms of the same word. But this word is actually used in Revelation 26, which is commonly known as a millennial reign verse, the 1,000-year reign of Christ here on earth, immediately following his second coming. So now back to 2 Peter 3:10. And it says, "In which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also, and the works that are therein, shall be burned up." Now, I believe this is speaking of the destruction of the current earth we live on. I don't believe it is a figurative destruction, which I've heard a few people say. But I do not somehow think it's spiritualized or allegory, but I believe it is a literal destruction. Now, when I say a literal destruction, I do not mean everything will cease to exist. Certainly, to make something cease to exist is one common use of the word destruction. Yet, we do not ever see evidence of this happening in physics. The way God created everything, nothing is actually destroyed in the sense to cease existing, nor is anything naturally created. Matter, energy, just change state from one direction to the other. Creation itself was supernaturally spoken into being by God through Jesus Christ, who is the Word of God. I also believe it will be ended or destroyed by God. But I only point that out to show the word destruction does not have to mean it goes back into nothingness. Everything was spoken forth from nothingness, by the words of God. But it does not mean that everything's going to return to nothingness when the word destruction is being used. I believe that everything will change state. That is what we observe happening in the physical universe God has created. Things don't cease to exist. And really, if you think about it, since everything was spoken into existence by God, and we know that nothing that God speaks from his mouth will return void, but it will accomplish what he purposes it for it to accomplish, then it will not go back to nothingness. But I do believe it will change state.